as this happens with you and I, when we get way up over our head in debt, and the banks start calling all the loans, we lose our house, we lose our car, we lose everything else in the world, and we can't pay the bill. Sometimes that's our fault, sometimes it's not. Sometimes poverty just happens, okay? String of bad luck or whatever you want to call it, sometimes that happens. Sometimes you just ain't got the cash. And, you know, there are poor people out there. Sometimes it's their fault, sometimes it's not. But anyway, the bank doesn't care. They'll take the house, they'll take the car, they'll take the sofa and love seat that you bought at the rental center, and you're going to pay, you know, $85 a week on this stuff. And when you don't pay the bill, they'll come and get it. Okay? It's as simple as that. And what's going to happen in America when we don't pay the bill? Who's going to come and get it? And I can tell you that I think it's planned. I think it's a design to not just bring America down, but it's happening all over the world. It's to change the monetary system. You cannot change the monetary system in your favor if you are the New World Order elite, if you are the people the powers that be. You cannot change the financial system of the world without destroying the old one. Okay? It just simply can't happen. If you would like to, and I see some people writing in right now, if you'd like to get in touch with me during this live broadcast, you can go online, you can join the Watchman community, or you can write in at the bottom of the screen there on PastorMikeOnline.com, fill out the blank, and you can send me you can send me a little note here. David is asking, Mike, why is the picture smaller? It doesn't look small. This particular camera I'm using makes my head look fat. It's kind of unfair to me. Anyway, I'm not sure. Let's see here. Guys, oh, yeah, I need to say that the correct identification of the song is not the Harlem Globetrotters theme. It is Sweet Georgia Brown. That's always a good song. Here's something, and I've addressed this before. This is from Joseph. Good afternoon, Pastor Mike, and God bless you. God bless you too, Joseph. I'm hearing some say that if any church is a 501c3, it is not allowed to speak on certain things by the government. What is your position on the 501c3 churches? Number one, we are not, and you don't have to be. I found out. Number two, I wouldn't. There are some 501c3 churches that are dirty dogs. Okay, yeah, there are. I wouldn't necessarily use that to judge them. Okay, there is, and somebody sent me a link to it yesterday or today of some churches that are 501c3 that are standing up and saying, you can't tell us what to preach. And I appreciate that, and I appreciate their stand. So I wouldn't necessarily think that a church is a government spokesperson and they have their hands tied simply because their tax status is 501c3. There may be other things, but I wouldn't necessarily judge them on that basis. Here is a note from Brian. Brian says, Preacher Mike, do the wheat and the tares grow up together in the church, or the wheat in the real church and the tares in the harlot church? It sure is hard to stay at my local Methodist church, Brian. Love you, preacher. Come deer hunting sometime. You know what? Now you're sprechen my Deutsch, Brian. I appreciate that. Brian, I'm going to answer it this way. In any civil social structure that we can be or are a part of in this world, there is always going to be wheat and there is always going to be tares in any situation. And I'll say this to you, okay? And this is not to say that every Methodist church or United Methodist church is this way, but by a large portion, they are. I personally could not go and sit for any length of time in a United Methodist church. They are extremely liberal. They know it. They're proud of it as a denomination, as a group. And then by and large, their pastors and their pastorettes are the same way. And they are extremely sodomite inclusive. Which, by the way, I hope I get time today to talk about what's going on with the anti-bullying campaign that President Barack Hussein is putting out there. There was a thing on what is it, the Today Show, making everybody feel sad about a sodomite teenager who killed himself, and basically they're using that sob story to blame everybody that didn't like him because he was a sodomite. And but anyway, Brian, I would seriously get on my knees and say, God, where do you want me to go to church at? All right, where do you want me to go? Terry says, the report I read said that G.W. Bush spent like $2 trillion in his first term of office, more than all previous presidents combined. Terry, I believe that. I believe that. I think we have gotten ourselves as a country into a sickness that cannot be cured. And I'll just be, I'm going to be bluntly honest. I think that we have gone past our ability to correct ourselves in this country without violence, bloodshed, major catastrophe, people starving in the streets. That's what I think. I think it's gone too far. I don't think any politician, I don't think any of the Republicans or Democrats or independents, or if Donald Trump gets back on, I don't think any of them are going to be able to change it and turn it back the way it needs to be. I don't think it's possible. I really don't. Angela says, have you seen the trailer for the movie Immortals? It's due out on 11/11/11/11/11/11/11. Yes, I have, and I'll be dealing with that sometime soon. Terry says, I sent one comment. Now I can't see or hear you. I can't see you either. Refresh your browser. Of course, if you can't see or hear me, he didn't hear me say that. Anyway. Let me get to another story here. Let me pull this up here. What do I want to deal with? What? Oh, I was talking about Gideon Bibles earlier, and I went to the land of the King James Bible on our way. We got stuck there in England. I want to go back. I want to go back to England. It's just something about the way y'all talk. It just really fascinates me. And but anyway, I was there, and I was sadly disappointed. Number one, because the coffee maker in our hotel room didn't make coffee. It made tea. Now, I happen to like tea. I drink cold tea, sweet tea, or I drink hot tea. And I did it the British way while I was there. I fixed me a cup of tea, and I poured the little milk in it and the little sugar, and it was quite dandy. But I really like my coffee. But anyway, that was in the hotel room, and I got to looking around, and I saw the Gideon Bible, and I said, hallelujah, in the land of King James himself. They had slipped in an NIV Bible in the room, and it was a Gideon Bible. So this article says, beware of Gideon's Bibles. Gideon's is a group of businessmen who since 1899 have distributed Bibles throughout hotels, motels, schools, prisons, nursing homes, and other places. I remember in 5th grade in public school getting a King James New Testament in public school. Okay, and no, this wasn't a one-room schoolhouse with a school marm. It was there's a bunch of kids there. Anyway. I respect and admire such a noble undertaking. However, Satan has infiltrated their group. That's the key thing right there. Certain men crept in unawares. If you know somebody that's a Gideon and they still stand on the King James, bless them, thank them, hug them. But the organization, they started out with New King James versions, and then they started slipping in NIV. Now, to me, it doesn't make sense. I mean, it really doesn't make sense. But I have a conspiracy theory. And here's my conspiracy theory. You see, as long as the Gideons were producing King James Bibles and copying them and putting them out there for free, it didn't cost them anything. I mean, yeah, it cost them in paper and ink and binding and people and things like that, but they didn't have to pay a royalty on the use of the text of the King James Bible. Okay, they didn't have to pay anything. They didn't need permission. They just printed it up. Okay, now all of a sudden they're printing copyrighted New King James versions and copyrighted NIV versions. And you have to pay a royalty. You have to pay for every Bible that rolls off the press at the Gideon factory. They have to pay Thomas Nelson, who holds the copyright for the New King James, and they have to pay Zondervan, who holds copyright for the NIV. So they're paying more money unnecessarily to put Bibles out there. Unless the guy at Thomas Nelson and unless the guy at Zondervan sat down with Gideon himself and said, we got a deal for you. We'll let you print all of your Bibles with our stuff in it, our NIV stuff and our New King James stuff in it, absolutely free. We just feel like this is what God's telling us to do. The motivation for doing that would be this. It would be, and this actually happened. This actually happened in the Southern Baptist Convention at Holman Press. Holman Press for years was printing Sunday school literature for the Southern Baptist Convention in King James only. Guys at the NIV sat down with the guys at Holman Press and said, tell you what we'd like for you to do. We understand people are used to the King James, so here's what you do. On one side, put the King James. And on the other side, put the NIV. Now, we won't charge you anything. We won't charge you a dime for this. And as a matter of fact, what we'll do is that we'll kind of track what's going on, and when we see the sales of the NIV Bible increasing, we'll take a portion of that proceed and we'll stick it into your coffers. We'll pay you back for it. That's pretty slick, isn't it? Okay? That's a pretty slick deal. So they had NIV here and the King James here, and all of a sudden these Southern Baptists, I don't know, 3 or 4 million strong all over the country, started reading that, and you know, I like that NIV. I think I'm going to go buy one. It's free advertisement. Okay? It was advertisement is what it was. And so if the Gideons are not paying royalties to Zondervan or Thomas Nelson, that's why. They're getting free. So when some poor, listen to this, this makes me mad. When some poor, destitute bum checks himself into a motel to kill himself, and I know a story about that. I met this guy. His name was Max Palmer. Max Palmer was in the Guinness Book of World Record while he was still alive for being one of the tallest living men. He was well over 8 feet tall. Okay, big fella. He might have been right at 8 feet, 7'11", or maybe right at 8 feet. Great big guy. Was in a couple of these 1950s, 60 Martian movies. I forgot which one. But anyway, was a professional wrestler for a while. Had women hanging all over his arm and a whiskey bottle in the other one. His life, he just ran out. He just said it's not worth living anymore. Checked himself into a cheap motel and with a gun and was going to kill himself. And he sat there on the bed, drank some whiskey, reached over for his gun, and his hand hit the King James Gideon Bible. I'm not making this up. This is what he told me. And he said, I just picked it up. Well, I tell you, I just want to cry when I hear this story. Just picked it up and opened it up there. You know, they had how to be saved, you know.